Leacock, Director of Collections at the Buffalo Museum of Science, and we're continuing on our virtual tour of the museum. Today we're exploring one of our galleries, Artifacts, which features our anthropology collection. We have about 120,000 objects and artifacts in our anthropology collection, and a sample of them are used in this gallery, which I look forward to sharing with you today. Anthropology is the study of humankind, past and present. And anthropologists look at people across time and place. And what we wanted to show with this particular gallery is that the peoples of the world are more similar than we may initially think. Some museums, they contextualize their exhibits according to geographic location. They place Chinese objects with Chinese objects, material culture from the African continent together in a Hall of Africa. But what we wanted to do here is celebrate our similarities rather than focusing on our differences. And so in this gallery, we looked at what are things that make us human, what are things that cross cultural and temporal and geographic boundaries. And we settled on music, communication, death and dying, and foodways. And we looked at those particular things as a community and shared our collections pertaining to those objects in this gallery. We start, however, with this large exhibit case, affectionately known as Big Red. And in here, we look at a variety of artifacts across time and place, just to give the visitor an appreciation of human ingenuity, human creativity, the different ways that we adorn our musical instruments, our masks, we have clothing, utilitarian objects like ceramics and baskets. But in this case, we show 2.6 million years of material culture. We start with Acheulean hand axes from, again, 2.6 million years, and we have this candelabra right here, which was brought to Buffalo in the 1960s by Buffalo collector Dr. Charles Rampenny. He shipped this and then carried it. When he returned from Mexico, he actually brought this, he bought it a plane ticket and brought it back with him on the plane. So music. Do you play a musical instrument? Cultures across the world play some kind of music, whether it's for communication, entertainment. It can be a solitary endeavor. You can practice your guitar in your basement, or it can be a group thing, drum circles, orchestras. These are just some of the items from the museum's collection that deal with music. Some scientists believe that they have found a bone or antler whittled into some kind of whistle dating back 40,000 years. The objects in this collection, we have some gongs. That gong actually came to the museum in 1901 as part of the African Village collection at the Pan American Exposition. We have this beautiful carved drum here, which is from the PGT Black collection of the South Pacific. We have a stringed instrument from China, and then we have, these are called sanzas or finger pianos, which are used in a variety of different countries in the continent of Africa. These conch shells are just remarkable, and they are Tibetan, and you would blow in to the conch shell. So we have wind instruments, we have stringed instruments, we have percussion instruments, but also these little funerary figures here illustrate different musical instruments, and so we included them here in this exhibition. We focused a little bit more on one particular genre of musical instrument, and that is drums or percussion. So here, these are just different percussion instruments that are from the collection. Again, we have slit gongs from the South Pacific. We have this drum that you would wear from Nigeria, China, and some plains drums that are made from a painted hide over a wooden structure. So we have different time periods, we have different cultures, but the innovation or the invention or the intention is the same, and that is to take some kind of stretched skin, to beat it either with a mallet or your hand, and to communicate something, whether that's a message along over a particular space, or just for entertainment. We've probably all at some point in our lives encountered drum playing or played a drum ourselves. So music is one of those sort of universal languages that we can agree across time and place people play music. And similarly, we communicate in different ways. Music is one way, but the written word is another. So over here in our artifacts gallery, we talk about the written word. Anthropologists use the written word to learn more about past cultures. We may not be able to read everything, but we know that all the items in this case were used as a system of communication for for that particular culture. So we have cylinder seals here. We also show them along with their impression, as it's hard to see on these very, very small seals what message that artifact is trying to play. We have ostraca or ostrakhan, which are ceramic sherds. So now we take for granted that we can go to the store and buy a ream of paper, or we have notepads, or we take notes on our cell phones. But think about the material. How did you write things down? Where did you get paper? So ceramic sherds, or broken pieces of ceramic, were used to send messages, almost like sort of scrap paper. We have papyrus fragments. Of course, papyrus is predominantly found in Egypt. The palettes that you see in front here, there's a ceramic palette and a wooden palette, are used by the scribes that were writing the documents. But here in Egypt, of course, not everybody could read or write. A scribe was a career choice. You were a learned person that you were recording. It's not like everybody read and write predominantly like they do today. And we have cuneiform, or what we call wedge-shaped. In the back there, those are cuneiform cones or boundary markers. These are little envelopes almost with cuneiform writing. And then we get into more contemporary, where we have vellum and paper with sort of a more a handwriting style. These are illuminated manuscripts that are just remarkable. We also have in our collection a reproduction of all the codices that are found. So those are the accordion style books of Central America with, you can see the codices in the back. One of my favorite artifacts from the library's collection is number 8 right here. And that is a complete Holy Bible. So the Holy Bible in miniature. And the idea here is not that you should read the Bible. You would need a magnifying glass to read a Bible of that size. But if you have it in your pocket, you're carrying it. And what does that symbolize? Not that you've read it, not that you can read it, but that you have the Holy Bible with you, if that's if that's your belief system. This here is called a horn book, and this is an early educational device. So this, you would have it's called horn because there's a piece of wood, and then a paper, and then a piece of horn over it to protect the paper. And this would have been used as an educational device for students to learn to read, and the horn protects the paper underneath. So again, a variety of different ways that people choose to communicate in the written word, whether it's through pictographs, or hieroglyphics, like the Egyptians, or through the Roman alphabet like we use here in the United States. So the written word, communication, how individuals communicate with each other, but also how they communicate their history or tell their story. Another uniquely human intervention. So one of the other areas that we chose to focus on, similarities across cultures, is in our treatment of the dead, or in the afterlife, or death and dying. People perform a variety of burial customs, from some of the most elaborate, like the ancient Egyptians. Here we have a coffin the coffin cover of Jed Horfunk, who lived in the Ptolemaic period of Egypt. So this is a very elaborate burial custom. The Egyptians are probably known for having the most elaborate burial customs. They certainly have great marketing around their pyramids and their beautiful sarcophagus and coffins. But there are other cultures that spend equally as much time in developing similar material culture for the afterlife. And we have some of these on exhibit here. Over here we have some Chinese burial goods. So the idea here was that in Chinese tombs, miniatures of your life were put in the tomb with you. So here we have a wellhead, a watchtower, and a bed, marking an area where a loved one is interred. So in Western culture, we use tombstones or a columbarium for cremated individuals. These pieces up here are different grave markers. The stela here again is Egyptian, and the clamshell plaque there is from the Solomon Islands. So do you inter individuals, or are they cremated? These vessels here, these large ceramic vessels, this is a pre-Columbian piece from Argentina, and down here a burial urn from China, are believed to have been vessels for the remains of individuals, or burial jars or burial urns. So how we remember our dead, our burial customs, they change over time and place, but there's still that idea that we remember our loved ones. The Day of the Dead in Mexico is a way that the population celebrates the family members that have passed on. It's not macabre, it's a celebration of family. And these are just some of the items from our collection that pertain to Day of the Dead, including in the front here, this is Bread of the Dead. So these are actually bread sculptures. You have an individual, a little skeleton, and then a female. Those are well-preserved bread. Mourning rituals. How this is a widow's bodice from our PGT Black collection. It's from the South Pacific. And a widow would wear this bodice as a symbol of mourning if she had lost her husband. And these are seeds, they're called Job's tears, and these would have been removed as the mourning period progressed. So this was a way for a widow to indicate that they were participating in the mourning ritual. So what are our burial customs? Now, you know, full interment is maybe not as popular as cremation. Where do we place our individuals? Do we place them in an urn, in a columbarium, or do we scatter ashes in a beloved place? These are all traditions that have been going on for thousands and thousands of years. One of the other things that we can agree on is food, right? Foodways. And so this area is dedicated to food and what we eat and the material culture associated with that consumption of food. Of course, we have to eat for nourishment, but there are a variety of ways that we share food as a social construct, right? We have family dinners, we have communal dinners, but the material culture that's associated with consuming food is just extraordinary and expansive. So here we have different serving vessels across time and place. The form is very similar, but the material completely different. We have everything from ceramic to wood to horn to gourd. People use the materials that are found in their environment. If you're not in an environment where you fire ceramics, maybe you carve things out of the natural environment. You carve things from gourd or wood. Basket weaving remains relatively unchanged. We know the basket weaving techniques from the material, from the decoration, but the structure is very similar across a variety of cultures. Here we have a nice selection of spoons. Again, different materials depending on where you're located or the availability of particular materials. And they can be as simple as a plain wooden spoon or as elaborate as a carved ivory, depending on is it everyday utilitarian use? Is it saved for special occasions? Is it even used, or is it just some kind of object that you save as indicative of a particular artistic style? Then we have larger things like this mortar and pestle. That's maybe more of a communal piece rather than sort of individual tablewares. And what we wanted to do in this area is really have our visitors think about the role that food and eating plays in your family. So this is supposed to be an area where you talk, if you sit down, do you sit down to a dinner table? Do you sit down with your family, or do you eat, in front of the television? Do you eat by yourself? Do you eat with your children? A lot of people, the children eat earlier than the adults. What does food consumption look like in your family and your household, and what conversations happen around the dinner table? But I think, as a culture, we all eat, and it's just fascinating to think about the material culture that comes out of that. And then moving on, this central area is where we really wanted to focus on that idea that there are so many similarities. So this exhibit case changes over time. When the gallery first opened, this was all about ceramics and ceramics across time and place. And right now it's dedicated to baskets or to woven materials. But you can just see the great variation and creativity in, so these are storage vessel covers, we have storage vessels, tools, baskets, adornment, so hats, various different types of hats, fishing nets. This is a cassava squeezer. So all the different ways that woven technology can influence our material culture. All the way down to this suit of armor here, which is woven from coconut fibers. So rather than separating these artifacts and placing them only alongside items from the same time period in the same geographic region, this exhibit really focuses on how, even though we may have had innovations thousands of miles apart or even hundreds of years apart, there's we still use our environment to develop material culture that we use in everyday activities, whether that be weaving some kind of plant fiber or shaping pottery into a vessel. We really, as a people, are far more similar than we give ourselves credit for.